Hey, what's up, guys? So this is kind of the first video I have that I actually have the book in front of me. This is Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. And I'm sure everyone's heard about Jordan Peterson. This is a review of the first chapter, so let's kind of just go into it. Uh, an Antidote to Chaos. That's kind of the subtitle. Don't really talk about the foreword. Don't really talk about Jordan Peterson's himself's kind of explanation how the book came to be. So rule one is stand up straight with your shoulders back. And I think that's kind of what I want to do right now. It just helps your posture even. It just makes you more comfortable comfortable and confident. He talks about the lobsters, and I'm sure if you know anything about Jordan Peterson, I'm sure you've heard this kind of criticized him against him. Kathy Peterson, I think that was her name, interview where she said we should all be like lobsters. So kind of a quote on page 1, scientists have been able to map the neural circuitry of lobsters very accurately. This has helped us understand the structure and function of the brain and behavior of more complex animals, including human beings. So we're talking about the anatomy of lobsters and humans and how they're similar. The receptors about kind of going on later in the chapter, serotonin reward centers of the brain and dominance hierarchies based on kind of physical appearance, physical domination, and how we can't really get away from that, how we really are kind of in the middle of that at all times, kind of just because we're simply in nature. Talks about birds and territory. He says now wrens and lobsters are different on page 3, but both are obsessed with status and position, for example, like a great many creatures, right? So at this point, we're talking about examining animals and equating them with what we are, with what kind of the human, with the human. We're equating them with the human. They still inhabit a dominance hierarchy. Like I said, we're here. It's for survival, like to creating this dominance hierarchy and finding a place in it creates survival. Territory matters on page 4, and there's little difference between territorial rights and social status. So I think that's super important or super prevalent with humans. You know, you got the bigger house, you got the more land, you got better job. I mean, these are things are in territory, they matter. The acquisition and maintainment of territory establishes social status. Okay, so if a contagious avian disease sweeps through a neighborhood of well-stratified songbirds, is the least dominant and most stressed birds, occupying the lowest rungs of the bird world, who are most likely to sicken and die. And this is equally true of human neighborhoods. But I think kind of metaphorically what this is getting at, because he's actually talking about like a physical disease, but be dominant and don't be stressed. Like that's what I get. With me reading this book, it really makes me, kind of equate the things in my life. And if I had been more dominant and I had been less stressed, I would have succeeded more. I mean, that's for sure. And that's the same way now. If I wasn't as stressed and if I was more dominant, I would succeed more. So that's what I really love about that. And the subtitle, Conflict and Territory. Over the millennia, animals must cohabitate with others in the same territories, have in consequence learned many tricks to establish dominance while risking the least amount of possible damage, right? So do that. I mean, that's kind of a lot of what this first chapter is about, is at least because I haven't read the whole book. So it's do this, like establish dominance while risking the least amount of possible damage. Talking about status forming rituals and techniques. Each lobster will first begin to explore the new territory, partly to map its details and partly to find a good place for shelter. Lobsters learn a lot about where they live and they remember what they learned. So that's just kind of talking about analyzing your territory and remembering kind of what the function of that territory is and what you can do in it. Just never be unaware of your surroundings, basically. Analyze everything as much as you can. Okay, I'll read this quote because I think it's important. Its original brain, if a Dobsonoller is badly defeated, its brain basically dissolves. Then it grows a new subordinate's brain, one more appropriate to its new lowly position. Its original brain just isn't sophisticated to manage the transformation from king to bottom dog without virtually complete dissolution and regrowth. Anyone who has experienced a painful transformation after a serious defeat in romance or career may feel some sense of kinship with the once successful crustacean. I think you really understand this passage if you've been through it. I mean, just the term painful transformation, I think you don't really know how painful it is until you go through it. So I'll kind of just leave that there. A lobster loser's brain chemistry differs importantly from that of a lobster winner, right? And this entire thing is about how lobsters are humans, like how we have such a similar hierarchy, and we have same kind of makeup for this kind of situation, the loser and winner's chemistry in the brain. This is reflected in their relative postures. So stand up straight with your shoulders back. The drugs prescribed to depressed human beings, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, have much the same chemical and behavioral effect. In one of those most staggering demonstrations of the evolutionary continuity of life on Earth, Prozac even cheers up lobsters. Yeah, I've been on Prozac, and it's definitely it has a lot of benefits. I think it has a lot of benefits. Has a lot of negative consequences that last a long time, or probably a month or two after you get off the drug. So I would recommend taking it if you feel like, if you have no way out, take it. I mean, that's, and I think Peterson says that too in a lot of other ways. He definitely says it in other kind of conversations and videos, but just kind of a side thing. He says you have every right to try everything if you are depressed. So we're on page 8, the principle of unequal distribution. When a defeated lobster regains its courage and dares to fight again, it is more likely to lose again than you would predict. Its victorious opponent, on the other hand, is more likely to win. It's a winner-take-all in the lobster world, just as it is in human societies, where the top 1% have as much loot as the bottom 50%, where the richest 85 people have as much as the bottom 3.5 billion. The same brutal principle of unequal distribution applies outside the financial domain. So he's saying when you're a winner, you keep winning, and when you're a loser, you keep losing. And that's 100% for sure. In almost everything. I mean, you just have to keep doing it. Keep doing it is the goal, to get momentum, to start your ball rolling down the hill, to keep dominating. The female, and this is about mating. The female lobsters identify the top guy quickly and become irresistibly attracted to him. Um, kind of, I'm not really wanting to get into that, I guess, right now. Uh, the dominant male not only gets the prime real estate and easy access to the best hunting grounds, he also gets all the girls. It's exponentially more worthwhile to be successful. Um, Okay, now this means that dominance hierarchies have been an essentially permanent feature of the environment to which all complex life has adapted. A third of a billion years ago, brains and nervous systems were comparatively simple. Nonetheless, they already had the structure and neurochemistry necessary to process information about status in society. The importance of this fact can hardly be overstated. So kind of recap what we've been talking about. It's more beneficial to be productive and successful, obviously, but you have to keep doing it to keep win. To win is to attempt to keep winning. You want to keep playing the game. You don't want to win and then nothing happen. You want to keep doing it, and it gets you everything. It gets you everything. Um, I kind of want to shut this video off just because I'll keep repeating the same things over and over. Um, but it's a very it establishes that dominance hierarchies aren't going anywhere, that they are kind of engraved in nature. Two, it's more successful or beneficial to be successful than non-successful. Um, and how we do that, I'll read the kind of last. I don't think it's a section, but the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. But okay, this is the heart of the chapter. You might object, the bottom is real. Being at the bottom is equally real. A mere transformation of posture is insufficient to change anything that fixed. If you're in number 10 position, then standing up straight and appearing dominant might only attract the attention of those who want, once again, to put you down. And fair enough. But standing up straight with your shoulders back is not something that is only physical, because you're not only a body, you're a spirit, so to speak, a psyche as well. Standing up physically also implies and invokes and demands standing up metaphysically. Standing up means voluntarily accepting the burden of being. Your nervous system responds in an entirely different manner when you face the demands of life voluntarily. You respond to a challenge instead of bracing for a catastrophe. You see the gold the dragon hoards instead of shrinking in terror from the all too real fact of the dragon. You step forward to take your place in the dominance hierarchy and occupy your territory, manifesting your willingness to defend, expand, and transform it. That can all occur practically or symbolically, as a physical or as a conceptual restructuring. To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. It means deciding to voluntarily transform the chaos of potential into the realities of habitual order. It means adopting the burden of self-conscious vulnerability and accepting the end of the unconscious paradise of childhood, where finitude and mortality are only dimly comprehended. It means willingly undertaking the sacrifices necessary to generate a productive and meaningful reality. It means acting to please God in the ancient language. To stand up straight with your shoulders back means building the ark that protects the world from the flood, guiding your people through the desert after they have escaped tyranny, making your way away from comfortable home and country, and speaking the prophetic word to those who ignore the widows and children. It means shouldering the cross that marks the X, the place where you and being intersect so terribly. It means casting dead, rigid, and too tyrannical order back into the chaos in which it was generated. It means withstanding the ensuing uncertainty and establishing in consequence a better, more meaningful, and more productive order. So attend carefully to your posture. Quit drooping and hunching around. Speak your mind. Put your desires forward as if you had a right to them. I think I'll stop there. The what I think Jordan Peterson is getting in this first chapter is just this preface of, you have to fix yourself right now. You have to fix what is internally in your body. I mean, stand up straight with your shoulders back, talking about the neural ramifications of defeat and success. I think that's super important, because we can't. I would argue that the first step to succeeding outside is inside, and if you're unhappy, or if you're sick in any way, you can't dominate the outside world if you can't dominate what's inside. What at least have the perception of domination on the inside, because we are not just us, we are everything inside of our body, that if it functions well. At the end, he talks about a spiritual kind of entity inside of us, and I think that's super important, to at least have this idea of a being, a psyche that is not this physical manifestation of that is not just this physical aspect of our life, because emotions aren't physical, but they are real. They are in our mind. Thoughts aren't physical, but they are real. We'll get more into this book, I hope, because it makes me think a lot, and it helps a lot to especially read, the kind of last section of it. But Jordan B. Peterson gets a lot of attacked a lot, but I mean, everything in this chapter just shows that he wants you to be better. I mean, he just wants you to participate in society in a successful way, that and be positive about it. To acknowledge that there are hard things that we will inevitably go through, and that you have to succeed in them to be successful. I'll kind of leave it there. Hopefully I get through chapter 2 soon and post a video about it. So, all right, guys, thanks.